Welcome. I'm your coach, Michelle Burns, and congratulations on making the decision to stop smoking. So, whether you've already decided you're going to or you're just gathering information, you've come to the right place. I want to let you know I can't make you stop smoking, but if you are willing to follow along, to get the right information, to use the tools, I can really help you get there. I can make the entire process so much easier for you to the point that the day that you decide that you're going to quit, you will be ready and you will make the decision and you will feel good about it and your life will get better every single day, better and better from that day forward. So in this video, I'm going to give you information, enough information that you can make a decision whether you want to move forward with my program or not. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. I'm going to give you some information here about smoking and what I feel like you need to know in order to prepare to make the best decision of your life. I smoked, I think I started smoking when I was 13 years old. And I want you to think about it, okay? So what made you start smoking? Why did you start? Because if you're like most people that I talk to, myself included, I remember when I started, I remember, some of the older kids and the cooler kids were smoking and I wanted to smoke too because they were. So I remember smoking that first cigarette and that horrible taste in my mouth that I got sick. And I decided I wasn't going to smoke again because I really felt like I turned kind of gray and felt like I was going to throw up, and it was gross. I thought, why would people do this? And then, I remember being with a group of friends after that, and someone handed me a cigarette and said, "Here." And I said, "No, I don't like smoking because I tried it already and it really made me sick." And they said, "Oh, well, that just happens like the first couple of times, but you'll get over it and you'll get used to it." So I was like, "Oh, okay." So I smoked the next one. It's like, okay, don't feel so great, but I didn't really get sick. And I just kept doing it until I got used to it. And then it's like, hey, I'm used to it. Now I can smoke. Now I feel cool like the rest of the people. And then before you know it, you're actually hooked. Actually, I probably was hooked even before I knew it. But this is why most people start. It's a social thing. It's a, fitting in, wanting to belong. Everyone else is doing it. Of course, back then in the olden days, we weren't quite aware of the consequences. And I don't think cigarettes were $15 back then either. So it was a little easier for me to continue smoking. And so I did for many years. And then when I decided to quit smoking, I actually quit smoking about 20 years ago. And I made a decision. I just kept saying to myself, I'm a non-smoker, I'm a non-smoker, I'm a non-smoker. And I set a date for quitting and I quit. And I didn't touch a cigarette for 7 years. And then every once in a while I started dabbling. It's like, oh, if we're at a party or if there's something going on and everyone else is smoking, I'll smoke. But then the next day I would feel so horrible I wouldn't smoke again. So then I got it in my head. It's like, oh, I can do this. Like, I'm an occasional smoker. But then I realized, I'm actually still really kind of hooked. That's not a great thing to do. So when I quit, when I quit 20 years ago or so, I didn't have the information I'm giving you, and I didn't have the tools that I have available now. And if I had, I managed to quit smoking, but I may have suffered a little more than was necessary. And I think that was the reason why it was so difficult for me to quit smoking at first, because every time I even thought about it, I'd panic. Like the thought of not having a cigarette and going through withdrawals, and I would, I see myself suffering and struggling without a cigarette. But that actually didn't happen. There was some mild irritation for a little while, and now with some of the tools we have, we don't even need to worry about that so much. So I want to talk about why we get so hooked and why we convince ourselves it's going to be so hard to quit smoking, because it's actually really not hard to quit smoking. You can quit smoking. So I'll dive into some of this content. First, I want to tell you, some of these things, I'm not using scare tactics. I'm going to give you some facts. And because I really want you to understand what has got you hooked And I want to change your mind about some of the ideas you may have about why you keep smoking and why it's hard for you to quit, because most of it's not true. So, nicotine is the world's #1 addictive drug. I want you to think about it that way now. Instead of thinking of it as a cigarette, it really is a drug. And when I was a smoker, I felt trapped. Like I really felt controlled. I felt powerless to quit. It really is self-imposed slavery. It enslaves us. And being a non-smoker, you experience freedom. Like we really focus in on everything that we're going to give up, what we're going to lose, what we're going to be missing, but we fail to consider all the amazing gains from quitting smoking. So I'm going to talk about both in this, so that you can, like I said, be well informed before you make the decision to quit. So the greatest fear about quitting, obviously, like I just mentioned, is about what we're going to give up. I want you to imagine how much more enjoyable your life is going to be when you're a happy non-smoker. You know, because it's that feeling of, you know, when you're sitting somewhere and you suddenly start getting anxious because you need a cigarette. And, you know, someone might be talking, or you're waiting, or you're somewhere and you can't smoke. And it's the sneaking out of buildings and hiding somewhere, or standing outside on the street smoking in the snow or the rain, or, you know, hiding. Like we're, you know, we feel guilty, we feel diminished in some way. And then you smell like smoke, you taste like it. You're trying to, you know, all of those things. Like what are you actually giving up? Like when you don't need to do that anymore, you actually feel free. It feels like a relief. It feels like, you know, you feel proud of yourself, you have courage, you have more confidence, and you're not being run by this addiction or by this drug. You get to enjoy the satisfaction of being free of this addiction. So the solution that I have includes information and very powerful tools for transformation. I've been working as a transformation coach for more than 20 years now. I've worked in addiction recovery for the last 10 years now. And the tools I have, they work if you're willing to use them. And it can really help you not only quit smoking, but really transform your life in a lot of really amazing ways. The actual reason why smokers continue to smoke is a combination of two things: the nicotine addiction and the beliefs that we have around why we're smoking and why we continue smoking and why it's difficult to quit smoking. So I want to address both. In this video, I'm going to address a lot of the mindset barriers and the beliefs that we have. And then you can make a decision whether you want to try the transformational tools that I have too. I'll tell you about them in a minute. So why do you smoke? Like, ask yourself the question, because people's answers are, well, it helps me to relax, it relieves stress, it makes me feel better, it's, you know, it's satisfying, it's like a friend, it's, you know, these are the stories we tell ourselves, and they're beliefs. So, and I want to tell you about why. Most people will say that it relaxes them, but it's just not true. It's that it alleviates stress or that it causes you to relax is not true. It actually creates the stress that you need to smoke to alleviate. So to explain it, I'm just going to mention nicotine is actually a colorless, oily compound. It's a drug that is in tobacco that addicts the smoker. So it's the fastest addictive drug known to mankind. And people can get hooked after just one cigarette. And the reason why, every single puff of the cigarette delivers by your lungs to your brain a small dose of nicotine that acts faster than a dose of heroin that an addict would use a needle to inject into their veins. 20 puffs delivers 20 doses of the drug in one cigarette. So nicotine is a fast-acting drug, and it leaves the bloodstream in about, in about 30 minutes, it's about half of it is out of the bloodstream, and within an hour about 3/4 of it is gone, which then starts to create that feeling like I need more. So that creates that stress, that tension, that craving pang. And then when you smoke, that relieves the craving pang. So that's why people think, oh, it helps with stress. It makes me relax. It's actually just relaxing that anxious feeling that you're getting from the the pang from the drug. So people think it relaxes them. It actually creates the stress, the anxiety, the irritation, the aggravation. And the longer you go without a cigarette, the more anxious you get, the more panicky you get. So then you smoke the cigarette and it's like, oh, that, the relief. So this is where, so we're convinced that the cigarette is actually really responsible for the relief, for the satisfaction, for reducing the stress. But in truth, it creates it first, and then it reduces it. That's the addiction, and that's the cycle we get caught in, which is why most smokers smoke about 20 cigarettes a day. That's a pack. And that's why we have to smoke 20 a day, because it quickly leaves your system. That's actually good news too, though, when you think about quitting over the long term, is that it does leave your system quickly. In a few days, most of the nicotine is out of your system. In 3 weeks, all of it's out of your system. So just keep that in mind, and I'll explain more about that soon too. As soon as you put the cigarette out, the nicotine quickly starts to leave your body, and then you begin to experience those withdrawal pangs. And you need to acknowledge that you're addicted to it and that it's actually a drug. Think about it that way. Instead of a cigarette, it's actually a drug. And I'm not saying it to make you feel worse about it. We just need to know the truth. It really is. It's a drug. It goes to your brain. It creates a chemical reaction that causes you to want more, like any drug, right? So, and it's not to, I don't want to make you to add any guilt to it. We just need to face the facts and know the truth. And this actually helps us once we make a decision to quit. So there's actually no physical pain with the withdrawal from nicotine. It's an empty kind of restless feeling. It's a feeling that something's missing. Maybe after a little while, you get that nervous feeling. You feel kind of insecure, agitated, irritable. It's kind of like hunger, only it's for poison, because nicotine's a poison. And that's what we're craving for. And we're feeling irritated, and the solution is poison. This is really what we're dealing with. So within 7 seconds of lighting the cigarette, that nicotine is delivered to your brain, through your lungs, and the craving's gone. So it's a pretty intense addiction. So, but, and that's why people panic when they even think about quitting smoking. I know when I posted this originally on my Facebook page about the Stop Smoking program, someone said, even the thought of it makes me want to smoke more. And I get that. And it's because of that panicky feeling that we get, thinking that, it's like, the end of the night somewhere, and it's like running out of cigarettes, right? And you get that panicky feeling like, oh, because that you're, within an hour, you're going to be craving again. But as soon as you quit, you don't have that anymore. Like, imagine being free of that. Every single hour, we get this pang to put more drug in our system. And, I really seriously want you to imagine what your life will be like without that, because it's a wonderful freedom to not have that addiction, to not be controlled by that pang and that irritation that we need to satisfy with a cigarette. And not to mention the ways that it affects our health and the cost of it. I'll mention more about that later. Some people I talk to, they say they spend all their spare money on cigarettes. I actually did the calculation. And if you're smoking a pack a day, you are spending more, like at $15 a pack now, at least, in some places more, you are spending over $5,000 a year. So take that in. I really want you to think about it. What would you do? Imagine all the things you can do with $5,000. I mean, and couples, like I work with couples and help both of them to quit smoking. That's $10,000 a year. And they actually make a plan for what they're going to do with that $10,000 because that's the reward. And that they just start enjoying it. They can make a plan every single month to do something nice for themselves and celebrate, or they can plan one big thing every year with $10,000. That's a lot of money. Hundreds of thousands of people have their lives ruined every single year because they've become hooked on cigarettes. It is the number one killer in society. Okay, and that includes road accidents, fires, everything. The number one killer is smoking. And why is it that we regard glue sniffing and heroin addiction as such an evil? Well, the drug that we spend most of our money on is actually killing us, is killing way more people, but it's somehow still kind of socially acceptable, but that's becoming less and less too. So the fear of quitting is what really keeps people smoking. Like the fear of the immediate pain of letting go and feeling deprived and feeling like we're giving something up is actually greater than the long-term fear of a health consequence. So, but once people overcome that fear, it's the first thing I address when I'm working with my clients is we overcome all those fears that you have about quitting smoking. So that's what puts you in the place of feeling, okay, no, I'm really ready to do this. Like there's no more fear left, because most of the fears that we have are based on the belief that it's doing us some good, which it is not. So giving up, even those words, giving up smoking implies a sacrifice, right? So the truth is there's absolutely nothing to give up. There's so much to gain. There's so much, freedom, self-respect, peace of mind, improvement of energy, confidence, courage. You'll be happier, you'll be healthier, and you'll be wealthier. So if you smoke one pack a day at $15 per pack, like I mentioned, it's actually $5,475 per year. If you're a couple, you have to think about what you would do with $11,000 a year. So it's not the non-smoker who is being deprived, but the poor smoker who's giving up so much. It really is, because we always think that when non-smokers think that the smokers think that non-smokers are envying them. We're not. We're looking, going, oh, you poor thing. I feel bad for you that you're still trapped. That's exactly what's going on. And I would really want you to experience the freedom of being a happy, joyful, proud non-smoker, because that is the possibility for you. Smokers don't smoke because they enjoy it. They do it because they are miserable without it. And that's the truth. Like when you don't have it, you get that pang and you're miserable. And we think that's going to go on endlessly. It's not. Okay, that's a temporary situation, and it's not even that bad. If you use some of the tools I have, it's not even that bad when you quit. So everything that we think is going to happen, everything that we think we're going to miss, we're not going to be able to enjoy it, we're going to be more stressed. None of that's true. It's not true at all, actually. You feel much more relaxed, you feel more calm, you feel more confident, more courageous, you have more self-respect. Like nothing could be further from the truth, that you are going to miss it forever. Like that's what sometimes people think. It's freedom from slavery. Think about it. You don't have to go through your life suffering with that awful, like that dark, heavy feeling about, oh, I need to go and have a cigarette, and feeling bad about yourself and beating yourself up. I mean, that was really, I didn't even realize how much that was going on until I actually quit. So, it's that panic feeling of I want a cigarette. Non-smokers don't suffer from that feeling. Like I never think that anymore. And I know when I was a smoker, like of course every hour I'd be sitting there getting kind of anxious, like where am I going to go smoke? How am I going to have a cigarette? I have to hide this. I don't want people to know I'm smoking. Whatever. It's like we don't have that. When you don't smoke, you don't have those things. You don't have to worry about being trapped in someone's house or in a place where you can't smoke, in a movie theater, in a church, at a play, at a social event. Like a lot of times I was avoiding doing those things because I knew I wasn't going to be able to smoke for 3 or 4 hours, like the horror of that. Now you'd have the freedom to go do those things and enjoy your life. Okay, that panic feeling of wanting a cigarette isn't some sort of weakness in you. or it's not the magic quality of a cigarette either. It really is it's from the drug. It is creating that situation in you. It's not a weakness in you. It is just a consequence of taking a drug that's running out of your system and you need to replenish it again. That's all it is. So no beating yourself up, no feeling guilty. You can let that go. You can set yourself up. You can do this. Like there isn't anyone on the planet that can't quit smoking. Once you have the right tools too, we can just make it easier for you. So what is it we're giving up? Really, absolutely nothing. We're giving up something that's actually damaging. You're giving up something that's causing your health to suffer. Like think about this, the way that it affects our blood. Okay. Well, one of the things, it affects your immune system. So we don't see this. It kind of happens gradually, so we don't consider it. But it's gradually, slowly, gradually weakening and diminishing your immune system. Your ability to actually fight off illnesses and germs and viruses gets weaker and weaker and weaker the longer and the more you smoke. So that alone, and that happens over a long term. So we don't really see it until we start to realize we're getting sick more often. When we do get sick, we don't recover as quickly. That starts to happen, and it weakens your immune system. Cigarettes do not fill a void, they actually create it. Once you purge that drug from your body and all those limiting beliefs from your mind, you're never going to want or need a cigarette again. Once you're done with this, you will be done with this. Once you realize how much better you feel and how you haven't really given up anything at all and you've gained so much more, including $5,000 a year that you get to do what you want with, you won't want to smoke again. You're going to be a really happy non-smoker. And non-smokers, like they're, doing it the right way, are really happy. So, once you make the decision to quit, this is what I invite people to do, because people will think, oh, I'm just going to have one cigarette. It's like, nope, there is no such thing as one cigarette. As soon as you have that one cigarette, that drug is back in your system. And within an hour, you're going to be craving for the next cigarette and you're going to be having those pangs again. And then it's going to be harder because it's in your system. It's going to be irritating you for a while. So that's why they say, like, do not do it once. So that one cigarette could cost you $5,000. Think about it that way. I mean, that's just in 1 year. In 10 years, that's $50,000. And I smoked for a lot longer than 10 years, but it wasn't $15 a pack then. But now if you smoke for the next 10 years, that's $50,000. But just, think of it in a shorter term because it's closer to us. That first cigarette will cost you $5,000. Is it worth it? It's probably, if you really, really let that sink in, you will know that it's not. So, let's just see. Yep, your life is far more enjoyable when you quit smoking. Sorry, I'm just flipping through my notes to see if there's anything else I want to cover in here. Yeah, a couple of things I want to mention too. So having that one cigarette once you quit, that's not a good idea. The other thing that is really a disaster is cutting down. It's the worst idea, and I'll tell you why. When people do this, they'll say, okay, well, I'm going to cut back to half. So they're going to smoke 10 cigarettes a day. So now what they're doing is they're waiting twice as long to have a cigarette. So they're being irritated a bit longer. That pang is getting worse. That irritation's getting worse. They're antsy, they're anxious. And by the time they smoke that cigarette, the satisfaction is far greater because they've waited longer. So they've kind of tortured themselves, and now they're having the cigarette, and now they're convinced the cigarette is giving them satisfaction. So now it's harder to give up. Think about that, okay? So that is never a good strategy. In fact, you know what I actually did? Because my kind of quitting smoking journey was, I quit smoking for 7 years and then I started, and I would start smoking every once in a while, not for any long period of time, but sometimes for a few days. And then it would be kind of irritating again when I went to try and quit. So instead of cutting back or slowing down, I'd smoke a whole bunch more, and I'd smoke cigarettes that I actually didn't like. Some really strong cigarettes, and then I'd be like, oh, I don't want to look at this again. That's a better strategy, believe it or not, than cutting back. So you don't want to do that. And think about a time in terms of quitting smoking. When I'm working with people, I first of all talk to them. We have a discussion about their fears, their worries, their concerns, their beliefs, what they've done in the past, what's worked and what hasn't worked. And then we pick a day. Like you don't need to stop smoking right away, but you pick a day, and I help you get prepared so that on the day that you decide, you are actually ready to quit smoking. So choose a day. Like, there's never a good time. People always say, well, I'm going to wait until this event's over or that event's over. Life is busy, and there's always all kinds of things. I would say, maybe quit on a weekend if you're not working, and so you can have a couple of days to just kind of relax and rest and settle in and not have too much pressure on you, if that works. Or if there's a time where you're going to, take a few days off work or something like that, it might be a good idea. Other than that, please don't trick yourself into thinking, well, once this event's over and there's events all the time. There's always something coming up, and there's always something causing us stress. And the thing is, people are really worried about when they quit. Well, what if I have a stressful situation? You're going to, it's life. You will have stressful situations when you smoke. We have stressful situations when we don't smoke. So one of the things I do, I give, like, all my clients, I work with them one-on-one. First of all, I do 4 private coaching sessions with them. And then they get a 12-week follow-up program. That's an online program that is building emotional resilience. And that teaches you how to deal with stress, challenges, fears, worries, anything. It's really an amazing program where you become really strong and you learn how to face challenges head on without a cigarette, without any other kind of an addiction, actually. So don't worry about dealing with stress after you quit smoking. You're going to have less stress, first of all, and you're going to be better at handling stress. So let's see what else. Cutting down is not a good idea. Ixnay on that. Yeah, I mean, think about it. I mean, the paying through the nose, it's unbelievable how much cigarettes cost now. There's no such thing as a confirmed smoker and somebody who can't smoke. If that's one of your beliefs, just please know it's a belief, and I'll help you change your mind about that, because it's absolutely not true. No one needs to smoke. Like, think about before you started smoking, you didn't need it. You did it because you wanted to, and we actually had to learn how to do it and learn how to enjoy it. Cigarettes, like, they're really disgusting. Now that I don't smoke, I hate the smell of it. I can't stand, like, ashtrays. I can't stand the smell. You can smell it on people. I really don't like being around cigarettes at all. Okay, so it's not, and don't even think of it as a habit. It's not a habit, it's a drug addiction. It really is, and you have to really get that, and just allow yourself to know that's exactly what we're dealing with. And life is infinitely sweeter without it. Okay, I'm just scrolling through my notes to see if there's anything else really. I'll mention this here. Nicotine kills over 120,000 people a year. That's in just in the United States, actually, and 2.5 million a year worldwide. 2.5 million people. And you can't scare an addict. that's the truth. That's something I've come to know. So, threatening somebody with, if threatening somebody around the health consequences was going to work, no one would smoke, because we all know what they are. But that's off in the future. The immediate threat is what I feel like I'm giving up, and the worry of, suffering, which, even that is just a story. So we live in fear of the short-term consequences rather than the long-term consequences. So get it clear in your mind before you even start. that it's not the non-smoker who's being deprived. It is the smoker who is being deprived of energy that could be available to us because there's less oxygen in our blood. So naturally, we're going to have less energy. You have less money. It's costing you $5,000 a year. You have, when you quit, when you're a happy non-smoker, you're confident, you have peace of mind, you have courage, you have freedom, you have self-respect, you have money, you have energy, you have improved health. You don't have to panic. You don't have to worry about going outside anymore. You can enjoy your social life. You feel so much better. Your clothes smell better. Your breath smells better. You know, there's so many reasons to quit smoking and so many benefits that thinking about what you have to lose, like that list is so small in comparison to what you have to gain. I really want you to think about those things. And it gets better. Like the longer you don't smoke, the better it gets. Yeah, so I mentioned this earlier too. It takes about 3 weeks for all the nicotine to be out of your body. And then after that, it's really just adjusting to your life without cigarettes. But in my program, I make all kinds of suggestions for things that you can do. I use, I'll mention it now, I use, there are alternative transformational modalities that I use that help to reduce cravings, that change your mindset, that really help a lot with the feeling of addiction, that really strengthen your conviction from the inside that you're a non-smoker and that it feels good. And it makes it so much easier for you to quit. So we do 4 sessions working with me privately. And then the 12-week follow-up program is to strengthen you so that you cope better with challenges, with stress, with anxiety, with worries, fears. This is for, that program I use with executives and leaders and, my business clients. And I just know that it really helps with anybody who's working through an addiction as well. So I give you that program just to really anchor in your commitment to quit and make it easier for you to quit. And it changes the whole quality of your life. You become, you start to know your emotions. You have tools to clear your emotions very quickly. I will teach you how to reduce a craving very quickly. And it's, so everything you need, you will have. All you need to do is make the decision. You need to make the decision that you're serious about it and that you're ready to do this. And if you are, I would be so happy to help you. It's a wonderful thing to be a non-smoker. It just is, and if I could help you get there, that would, I would be very happy to do that. So one of the things I just want to mention, I have on the website, just below, you will see the price of this program. And that price, honestly, it's a fraction of what it should be given the benefits that you're going to get from it. I am going to send you an email. You're going to receive in an email an offer for a discount if you book right away. You've got 1 day to book. I'm not going to let you waste your time thinking about it because you'll talk yourself out of it. So I'll just tell you this, once you book it, you can take your time. You can decide the day you're going to quit, whether that's, a week out, whether it's a day out or a month out, whatever it is. You take your time, make sure that when you're ready to make the decision, we'll have one private session first and we'll talk about it, and you can make a decision about when you want to quit, and then we'll follow through and you can finish up the rest of the program. So you will need to take advantage. I'm going to give you a very sweet deal to make this work for you. If you are a couple and you want to quit smoking, I'm going to give you an even better deal. Or if you have somebody else that wants to do it with you, a friend or a couple, you can do that and you will get an even greater discount. And you need to book it right away. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to send me an email and let me know. I'm looking forward to talking to you. This will be the best decision that you've ever made in your life, bar none. You will improve the quality of your life and perhaps extend the length of your life as well. So, congratulate you for making the decision, and I will see you soon.